What's going on, everyone? We got some more Xbox news again that's not good. Yeah, it involves the Microsoft Blizzard or Activision Blizzard acquisition. They're still paying for this. Now, you know when they put Call of Duty on Game Pass, they lost 300 million? Well, apparently Microsoft has to settle an Activision Blizzard shareholder suit for 250 million for rushing the deal after allegations against Bobby Kotick when he was the CEO was denying sexual allegations. Things were still a problem, but they tried to whitehorse it, which obviously says a lot. Doesn't matter. You're really not going to be able to get away with that over time. So here it is. Microsoft has to agree to pay now $250 million on top of the $300 million they lost putting Call of Duty on Game Pass. So far since they've gotten Activision, they have now lost $550 million. That's over $500 million. You can say whatever you want, but that's still gonna mean they're not gonna subsidize. So now they got to make that back, right? You know how Satya thinks, right? So ever since this acquisition, it seems to be a curse. Call of Duty is also not performing like they wanted to. They had the worst performance last year. They rushed that out too. More AI slop. They got called out for that. You see what I mean? Now we see more AI hires coming in. So this gives you an idea about where this Activision Blizzard acquisition is going for. And they paid $68.7 billion for that. Have they got that back? Heck no. And now you got to pay an extra 250 million. You better believe there's going to be some shortcuts to get that money back now, because this is all part of the Xbox world. And Satya is not going to be happy about that, because that's going to go into their fiscal. So yeah, we have a lot to talk about here. Become a member if you want. I appreciate that, guys. Only $3. Leave a tip down below. Thanks for all the support. Like, comment, subscribe as usual. Let's get into this. So reading this, going into here, it says the settlement filed Thursday in Delaware's Court of Chancery addresses a lawsuit from shareholders led by Swedish pension fund AP7, who accused Activision's board of rushing the $68.7 billion sale to Microsoft in 2023 amid a sexual harassment scandal. As you guys knew what was going on with that, I'll zoom in again for you guys. Shareholders claimed the board undervalued the company and botched the process. Yeah, because you can still make a lot with COD over time with the way they had things going before they joined them. But Microsoft former CEO Bobby Kotick and the board denied any wrongdoing. Of course, he's going to play that game, but we all know what happened there. The deal awaits approval from Chancellor Kathleen St. Jr. McCormick, or St. J. McCormick, however, and ends related countersuits with cash going to affected shareholders and no admission of liability. So Microsoft's going to be like, instead of just being more of a pain, they're just going to pay the 250 million because they know how far this can go, and they already went to court enough for this. I don't think they want to deal with that anymore. They want it off their ass. You know what I mean? They can make that back easily, but the point is they definitely don't want to pay that 250 million. On top of, the 300 million for Call of Duty, because I was telling you before, give me back my money, right? We got to find a way to make up for this. And then, Call of Duty got took off of Game Pass now for day one. They would let you know that's not going to be happening now. That's a game that cannot be doing that, because they're just going to lose more money on top of this already. Now we're talking 550 million down the hole. So people can say whatever they want about the Sony side, but it's like, oh, look how much this is still costing them even more. But what have the results actually been outside of Call of Duty? It's been actually not good. So you think you're going to be getting some deals? No. Give me back my money. Here we go with this again. Charlie Intel says Microsoft has agreed to pay the $250 million to settle a lawsuit over the company's acquisition. Are we ready to get into some salty comments and into some other comments? Expect the Xbot fanboys to defend things, and then expect some other funny stuff to actually happen. Of course, you're going to have fanboys on all sides, but this is going to be interesting. Let's see. He says, gotta love American corpos. Bobby faces a sexual assault scandal stock tanks. He sells the company. The buyer is left with his bill. And then the asshole shoots off with like a couple $100 million paycheck on top of already being rich. This is why you got to believe in there being an underworld on the other side. There it is. But you see what I mean? Like, you don't want nobody to get away with stuff like that. Then with you just flying off with an extra couple $100 million, ruining people's lives. We don't need to go to the Epstein situation to really say that you want some better moral punishment than that, right? It's like, no, you reap what you sow. Okay, and it has to be balanced. So I understand what he's saying. Like, that's what happened. But I mean, who did he leave with the bill? He's like, it's Microsoft, you know? And remember that video that Bobby Kotick made when he said he was actually going to hire Phil Spencer before he decided to become the CEO when he got that job at that time. And we all know how that turned out with other things going the way that they went. He made it quite clear that you shouldn't be selling Activision to Microsoft. And you shouldn't be putting it on Game Pass. Meaning that don't put Call of Duty on Game Pass. Why would you put that in all-you-can-eat buffet when you knew you could just... We have World of Warcraft, $15 a month. Plus, we're making a profit off of that, and we're doing well. He was telling Satya that, like, what are you doing in gaming? You should be trying to buy Meta or something around that time. He never agreed with that deal, but he got himself out of his situation, right? Sitting on all that filth and being guilty and knowing what was wrong, but still didn't say anything for years. We know what type of guys he is. Good at business, but a scumbag. So they bought Call of Duty, ruined the franchise, and lost a lawsuit anyway. Microsoft are a disgusting company. So there's a lot of stuff going on where a lot of people are just not liking the way this deal has turned out. I can't say I blame them. Definitely when you find out what's going on. Let's read down some of this. How did Microsoft ruin it? Activision had already ruined it before the purchase. Modern Warfare 2 was not by Microsoft. Vanguard was not by Microsoft. So in a way, what he's saying actually kind of makes sense. Bobby Kotick actually turned Activision into a Call of Duty factory where it was recycled and made less than a year, but he had the profit going better than what they're doing now. It seems that when companies do get with Microsoft, they do seem to tank down and get worse. All the metas go down, all the sales go down. You get thrown out an all-you-can-eat buffet service, and things just go down. So there's no doubt about that, and more AI was actually integrated into it. So I'm not saying they fully ruined Call of Duty. No. Activision took those shortcuts regardless. So it goes both ways. They just didn't help at all. It has not gotten better. It's gotten worse. So you could say that. This guy says, bro, they didn't lose the lawsuit, you moron. It's been ruined since Modern Warfare 19. I know what I mean. Modern Warfare 3 gave us a shimmer of hope, but that seems to have disappeared. But they did the same thing with Black Ops. Microsoft did not do anything to improve it. Remember, they were trying to say, oh, we might take a year off and maybe make it a 2-year window and make it better. It was all blah, blah, blah to get in there and just to get the easy stuff so that your publishing could look stronger, because you were left with a dead world with Gears of War falling off a cliff, Halo dying off, and just Forza carrying. So you had to go buy Bethesda and Activision to add that to make your publishing look strong so you could put Microsoft publishing over pre-built of decades of work. Yeah, we already know that. But as far as them ruining COD, I know Kotick was already driving Activision off the cliff and was leaving all those IPs to the side. So they literally haven't overseen development of a single game that's released yet, and are you retarded? Modern Warfare 4 would be the very first they've overseen. Black Ops 6 and 7 were done or practically done by the time Microsoft acquired Activision. They had some AI integration into that. I don't know about that. But it's interesting that that was being said. I'm not sitting here agreeing with either side, but I can tell you that they haven't gotten better. So you don't be with somebody for a couple years and act like you're not involved with the biggest franchise that was selling at that time, right? Too funny, because Microsoft still hasn't made that acquisition money back, yet got to pay more money on top. That's what I'm saying. Plus the $300 million lost on Game Pass. So guy says, haha, so the final piece of buying of this franchise ended up being the worst decision of their lives. I think it's a curse right now, if you ask me. Just saying. Microsoft is collecting these gaming companies like Pokemon, except they're not doing the Pokemon numbers, though. What about the gamers that suffered? The companies like Microsoft, that's like spare change. You got to look at it different than that, though, bro. They're not going to just say that. So this guy says, bro, nothing but L since they've acquired Activision. I'm going to have to agree with you on that. So this guy says, now Game Pass will increase again to recoup the loss. I wonder what they're going to do to make up for that. Yeah, they're going to punish the consumers instead of realizing it's their mistake. So reading some more comments to see what happens down here. Paying $250 million to sweep a massive acquisition lawsuit under the rug is an insane flex that's more than the development budget of most AAA games combined. No. But, you know. Microsoft still walks away with one of the biggest gaming acquisitions ever, settlement or not. You're stupid. It has not done any benefit to them. You're ignoring the real picture here. What benefit has it done? You did not even get an increase of hardware. You can't outsell the Switch 1. You have no exclusives with that. And you lost $300 million on Game Pass and had the worst Call of Duty pretty much almost of all time, or one of them. And now you got another lawsuit on top of that since you acquired them. How is that a benefit? The hardware is worse than ever. Call of Duty is supposed to move a ton of stuff, right? What have they done with it? How did it benefit the company? You're still pimping out on PlayStation. Hey, I'm just saying. And then you got a 10-year contract with them, so you could never try that. And you got a 10-year contract signed with Nintendo that you have yet to produce on there, which we know is going to eventually end up happening or not. So you don't know what you're talking about. Sit down, please. So, and then here goes another. What is 250 to a $75 billion company? There we go again. When you to a $75 billion deal. There we go again with not realizing how much you need to do to make that back. And that this is not what you want to see. You need to see a positive surge. But it's probably the most disappointing acquisition and most ridiculous and anti-consumer of all time. For what? So you can just put your logo across it? But it still has to be the same way. Better off to not even, right? I'm just saying, yeah, what's the point? Bobby Kotick rushed to sell to keep his $400 million golden parachute. That's true. Yes. Yes. Now Microsoft has to pay $250 to clean up his mess. The CEO walked. The shareholders paid. Make it make sense. Plus, you lost $300 million. Bobby Kotick gets away in this sense, not in everything. So, yeah, I want you guys to let me know what you think about this. Leave a comment down below. More news out of the Microslop world that is like, what's going on since you've got this Activision? The Bungie deal ain't nothing compared to that. That's like 3.6 billion. Sony at least made back like 2 billion of it or whatever. If they drop Destiny 3, forget about it. They're making way more than that. And they need to get to that point. So other than that, yeah, that's nothing. Because look, Microsoft got Bethesda, but where did that get them? That's not doing insanely good. Bethesda used to sell like crazy. Starfield is a massive flop. Went to PlayStation 5 and done anything. It's disappointing when you look at Bethesda now. Pete Hines left. That said a lot, and a lot of other people. I'm pretty much worried about Bethesda. So far since they've done this monopoly, I haven't seen anything insane happen. Oblivion Remaster, so like what? Nothing? Outer Worlds 2 is trash when it comes to sales. The last Doom was the worst Doom sales of all time. Everything's taken down. You see what I mean? And when you think about that Redfall game, that game was absolute garbage. So where is the Bethesda that we know? I haven't seen it. So far, I would like to see better results. It seems like the companies that are doing well, the companies that actually were originally with Microsoft, like Playground, who's making their biggest games. Forza 5, Forza Motorsport, which didn't do that well, so they shut that down, right? And then they're working on Fable. Let's see what they do with that. Other than that, what do we got around the corner? State of Decay, Gears. You see what I mean? Fable, those games are coming from their actual companies that they still have. These acquisitions, I don't know. So far, it's very disappointing. And they spent twice as much money to get Bethesda that Sony did to get Bungie. Sony's making a lot of profit. And they're standing on their own. They're not pimping out on PC or other platforms like that. They did it for a little bit, but look at where most of their money still came from. You don't see PlayStation Plus on PC. And they canceled how many games? And they still made more than all the other generations. Combined PlayStation generations. That's how you do it. Nintendo's banking too, and doing it the right way. We're talking about what you're able to do on the gaming side organically. Not saying, oh, but you got this much money over here. But that's not from gaming though. That's from software. That's from data centers, Azure, and all that. But if you look at what Xbox Gaming is doing, standing on its own, it's in a pit hole, and it's not good. Let me know what you guys think. Keep on gaming no matter what platform you're on. Later, y'all.